So, is Wonder Woman 84 as bad as everybody on the internet is making it out to be? Well, that's a matter of personal opinion, and this here is mine. Assalamu alaikum YouTube. I finally saw Wonder Woman last night, and I gotta say it, man. I know you're all gonna hate me for this, but I kinda liked it.
Say what?
Now don't get me wrong, this movie has some issues, some big ones, that we will talk about in a minute, but overall, I liked it. Now, before I start, let me just say that yes, I am a fan of the Wonder Woman character. She's my favorite female superheroine of all time, and this was not an excellent movie, okay? Let me just admit it right at the front. This was not an excellent movie or representation of the Wonder Woman character. I admit that. But I did like this movie for what it was. A simple enough action flick. That's pretty much it. And it was kind of like good to see Wonder Woman back on the big screen in a new story, even though the plot was all over the place. But we'll get into that. Now, this is my opinion. I know this opinion is not the kind of the right one to have right now on the internet because everybody is hating on this movie. But honestly, you're entitled to your own stuff. If you hated this movie, that's your own stuff. Like, more power to you. I liked it. This is my opinion and I am entitled to it. So deal with it. Now let's get into the review, and first and foremost, let's get the biggest detriments for me personally how this movie messed up out of the way. Now the number one thing that I think Patty Jenkins has really messed up is how she handled Steve Trevor's return. There has already been a bunch of outcry over the way Steve is introduced or reintroduced in this movie, and to be frank, I have absolutely no idea why the writers, Patty Jenkins in particular, decided to go the soul in another guy's body route. I mean, that's just creepy, man. Like, you have a story about a dreamstone that fulfills wishes. Why you gotta add that extra detail of how Steve is actually coming back? Especially regarding the fact that Diana doesn't even ask that guy's name that Steve's ghost was possessing at the end of the movie, confirming that he is not going to be a love interest in any future. Why would you even go that route and just build up this controversy? Because it is a pretty controversial thing to do, in my opinion. Now, honestly, if I was the writer on this movie, I would have just pulled a Kyle Reese from the Terminator, you know, just a big bang of flash, a light. Diana makes a wish, bang. There goes a flash, a huge flash of light, something like that. People think it's a weird event. The city's in danger. Wonder Woman arrives to save the day. And there is Steve. Not naked or anything. That would be weird. But there is Steve. And he's back. There you go. Problem solved. Why you gotta add that stupid stuff of having him possess another guy's body is beyond me. But what's done is done. But I think the more important thing that they messed up with Steve Trevor is actually his attitude to this whole situation. Like, for example, the scene in which Steve Trevor actually returns directly follows Diana and Steve walking alongside a pond, and the way they are like talking about this whole thing and how he came back so casually, I was like, what are you doing, man? Like, this is a pretty out of the blue, unnatural situation. You've been like dead for 70 years, dude, and you have absolutely no questions of how you got back here. Now, I know you're pretty happy of seeing your girl again, and I'm pretty sure all of us would be if our girl was actually Wonder Woman, but still, I would like take a step back and first ask how I'm actually back here. But Steve Trevor and Diana have absolutely no interest in knowing how he's back there right now, and that was kind of like really strange to me in particular. And I thought that was really handled badly. It could have been done pretty well if they wanted to, because it was a pretty like interesting premise, but they messed it up. That's it. Now, the second big thing I thought was a really bad misfire was the 80s aesthetic. Like, the 80s aesthetic had literally no purpose apart from maybe the fact that no one has a phone with a camera on them 24 hours a day, and Wonder Woman is trying to conceal her existence or something. Now, that's just my own opinion. That's what I thought the 80s aesthetic was for, but other than that, it was pretty much pointless, or maybe it was just there to grab onto this 80s hype that has been going on in the, in media for the past couple of years now. Now, the third thing that I think that they really messed up was the tone. The tone got really messed up in this movie as compared to the original. I don't know if they were trying to go for comedy, because honestly, there weren't that many jokes in this movie. Or maybe they were like going for a dramatic, light-hearted movie, which it was for most of the time, and then sometimes it was not. I don't know, man. The only thing I know is that the tone was all over the place, and like really strange characters, and how everybody was like acting, especially the male characters. Why was almost every male character other than Steve Trevor a pretty bad dick kind of douchebag, especially to the female's character? I wasn't expecting that from Patty Jenkins, because in the first Wonder Woman movie we had kind of like tongue-in-cheek male versus female kind of things, but not too much. I don't think there was actually too much of that, and for her to actually make it like full 180 degree and add all of this stuff that every male except Steve Trevor is a pig to woman, that was like pretty like strange to me. I was like, come on, man, why are you doing this? Wonder Woman 1 was such an amazing movie. Why you gotta add all this stuff here? Now, the action scenes, I am pretty like sad to say that, yeah, the action scenes this time around were not very good, and Gal Gadot really felt stiff and phased out in most of them, especially when you looked up in her close-ups. Now, the fourth and final thing, or I think it's the fifth one. The fifth and final thing that I say that was a very big detriment to this overall movie is the fact that Wonder Woman was not the focus of this movie, which is a pretty stupid thing to do. This movie was more focused on Steve Trevor, Minerva, and Maxwell Lord than Diana. The Amazons, who are one of my favorite parts of the entire DCEU at this point, they got one freaking scene in this movie, apart from that one small glimpse of prehistory. Whatever, man. That was kind of a spoiler. But the Amazons got like one freaking scene in the movie, which I think was kind of pointless to begin with. And I'm so sad about that, because I was really, really looking forward to seeing more of Themyscira. I mean, come on, man. The Amazons and this whole like lore behind them in the DC universe is so amazing, and come on, Warner Brothers, make a DC Amazons movie, okay? It would be awesome. Now, I do think that they had a potentially good plot with the whole Dreamstone thing. I think it could have worked really, really well in the hands of a good writer. I'm just gonna say it. In the hands of the good writer, it would have worked really well. They could have told a really personal story about Diana's, of her wants, and maybe a bit of selfish side of her, of not wanting to renounce her wish after finally getting what she's been hoping for so long. And they kind of like do that in the movie too. But I think when you literally have the entire world engulfed in a nuclear war, yeah, that kind of personal thing just gets lost in the noise. And I think it's a very, very big missed opportunity, because they could have like told a very like grounded and personal story about who Diana is as a person. Okay, enough of the problems. I want to keep this review short. Here's what I actually liked about it. Now, I know that I give this movie a lot of flack on how Steve Trevor's return is handled, but I gotta say, Steve and Diana's on-screen time was really, really charming. I think these two make a really, really good on-screen TV movie couple. Could have been handled much better, but what there was, it was pretty good, and I think they really have some good chemistry, and they play off nicely of each other. And I really hope that there was like more, instead of them just like running around the entire planet solving this kind of like stupid plot. Now, as for the villain, I kind of really liked Maxwell Lord. Okay, I wasn't the greatest written villain or anything by a long shot, But they tried to give him a bit of humanity by adding his tragic past and his son as an angle to his personality instead of, just a genetic freak bent on taking over the world with a laser in the sky just because he can or he wants to. I think they did kind of like a good job with Maxwell Lord. Obviously, he wasn't like fleshed out too much, but what there was, it was kind of like good. And Pedro Pascal, I think, was a perfect casting for this role because he really sold it and he did a really, really good job when it came to portraying this version of Maxwell Lord. Because Maxwell Lord in the comics, well, he's kind of like a really big asshole, and you know how it goes. For those of you who are familiar with Maxwell Lord's characters, you know what I'm talking about. Cheetah's CGI design, I think, is really good. Compared to the travesty that was Steppenwolf in Justice League, I was glad to see a more comic accurate Cheetah with some artistic license, of course, from the team of Wonder Woman 84, because any artist who is going to draw a character for a movie or any other medium is going to have their own takes on it, and I think this take on Cheetah is really, really good, and I really hope to see her more in upcoming future DC movies, or maybe in Wonder Woman movies, or even in the extended universe, because I think they did a really good job in bringing this character to the big screen, finally. Now, overall, getting to see a small chapter in Diana's life that isn't connected to the greater DCU with all the continuities and stuff was kind of refreshing. You don't have to worry about this entire thing of this extended universe and all of that thing, because honestly that was one of the things that really turned me off of the MCU, because you had to keep up with 12 other things when watching a single movie, and to experience an entire movie you had to know all of these back things. It kind of really turned me off of the MCU, and I was really scared that DCEU might actually go that route, and I think it will go down that route eventually. But right now, seeing a standalone movie that has its own story that is slightly connected to the extended universe but not extremely a part of it, it was kind of refreshing. I had the same feeling with Joker, but while that film is completely cut off from the DCEU, this film is an example of a standalone film set in the extended universe continuity. Now, whether this is a good example or a bad example depends on your own tastes and opinions, but I think it did a good job of actually telling a small side story in the life of Diana Prince while she lives in the world of man and goes out to be Wonder Woman here and there before she comes out to the world in Dawn of Justice and becomes this amazing superhero that everybody knows. So I think that was a really good thing to do, to tell a small story in this extended universe. So that's pretty much it. That is kind of that's not all that I want to say about this movie, but I know this movie just came out a few weeks ago, I think, and I'm pretty sure that most people who want to watch it have already watched it, but I don't want to spoil it anymore. I will make a separate video going into details on how I think this movie actually did not do justice to the Wonder Woman character and how it is a very, very bad step down from the original movie, because that is honestly what it is. For me, this was personally an okay watchable movie, nothing too epic or deep. You can sit and watch it with your family and have a good time. However, the film, like I said, really got the Wonder Woman character wrong, and it doesn't compare to the original 2017 film. Now, that movie had its own fair share of problems, but compared to this movie, it was pretty much coherent. The plot was pretty streamlined. It was not all over the place, and it told a really good story with some interesting characters that were enjoyable to watch on the big screen. I just enjoyed it for what it is, because I thought some things I really liked in this movie, and it was a good time for me personally. If that was not your opinion, hey, you do you, man. But that is gonna be it for this video. If you like this review, do consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps out, and like that video and share it and do all that good stuff. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.